Welcome to Discover Indie Film. I'm your host, Jeff Howard, and I've got filmmaker and musician and composer Goldwyn Thandrayen on the line. We're on Zoom. Hey, Goldwyn.
Hey, Jeff. How you doing?
I am good. All right, I'm really happy to have Goldwyn here. He won at Film Invasion Los Angeles, which is a film festival that I program, last year in 2021. His music video for the song "I Don't Need a Sledgehammer to Start a Fire," which, yes, I thought was one of the coolest titles of the year. It took home the Filmmakers Award for Outstanding Music Video, and it's a great music video and great song. And Goldwyn and I had a really good Q&A as part of the festival. And the Discover Indie Film TV series, which you might have heard of if you're listening to this podcast, it's a TV series that was born out of this podcast, where it's an anthology of short films. And I love throwing in music videos too. And Goldwyn agreed to have his music video for "I Don't Need a Sledgehammer to Start a Fire" join the TV series. So if you want to see the video, I'm sure you can find it on his website. I'll have him mention his website and stuff, because it's one thing I learned from the film festival programming is musicians put their music videos, it's just up there. It's funny because filmmakers will sometimes take a short film or a feature and they're like, "No, I don't want anyone seeing this online ever." But music video is about promoting the song, right?
Everywhere. Yeah, it's everywhere.
Everywhere. YouTube, this, that. Why not? People should hear your music and see your cool videos. So anyhow, but if you want to watch it as part of the Discovery Indie Film TV series, it's going to be in season 5, which should come out in the middle of March 2022, which that's about a month from now, but who knows when people are hearing this. And go to Amazon Prime Video, search for Discover Indie Film, and Goldwyn's video is going to be in season 5. Enjoy. There's going to be a lot of great drama, art house, comedy. I think even some horror is going to slip into that season. It's always hard to get the horror films in the series because I got to admit, there's a lot of horror-specific type websites that grab those horror movies and make them exclusive. I'm like, come on, man, you made a short film. Don't go exclusive. But anyway, and I will shut up with this introduction stuff and just ask you, Goldwyn, how did you... were you always interested in film as well as music, or go ahead and tell the story of how you became a filmmaker?
Yeah, that's not. Yeah, it's a very funny way how it happened. It's just like I'm just into music, but as we were making records and music videos with other people, I found that there were limitations, at least with my ideas that I was throwing out there, and I was always being told that. This wasn't possible and whatever. And I had a feeling that wasn't true. It's just that person didn't know how to do it. So through that, I started off with YouTube by figuring out some stuff. And then eventually I went to film school, where I learned the whole process of filmmaking. And then through that, through film school, I learned how to appreciate so many other aspects of filmmaking and script writing, everything from the start to the end, lighting, color grading, everything was like fascinating. And then just before the pandemic, as I was working with other people, lockdown happened. And I took it upon myself to cut, color, and edit one of the videos that we'd done in Paris. Scotland or Paris, I can't remember. And I cut it, I edited it, and that was the start. And then I started just doing all my music videos myself.
Cool. All right. Well, do me a favor. Let's go way back. So when did you first get into music? And where'd you grow up?
So I grew up in Mauritius, which is next to Madagascar. And I started doing music probably when I was 15. So I'm 35 now. So that's 20 years ago. So I was always interested in films, watching, but not necessarily into the making of it. At least I thought so, but now when I watch things, I kind of see I always enjoyed these things when I was a kid, and I can see that reflecting in what I'm doing now. So I think an example of that is The Simpsons, which I kind of rewatched again, and I was just all the stories that there is in there when I've only seen it as a kid, and you don't really follow this one after the other, but I've rewatched it I think a few months ago, and I was just wow, Like there's so much stuff that I took from there that I just don't realize. And cartoons mainly, I think, is something that has always fascinated me. Still does. Yeah, and I think that's yeah. So now slowly kind of coming back.
It's interesting too, just to comment on it is one of the amazing things about animation is they're not limited by physical reality, right? And if they want to put characters on the moon or do some things that defy physics, they just do it. If they want to go to Paris, they just draw it. So yeah, I think animation sort of, I think, makes people think about like not having those limits. Because like you were talking about how you found working with other directors for a music video limiting, and like animation is limitless.
On certain aspects, because I did want to get into like some of our videos. I wanted that to happen, like to do animations and whatever. As an audience, I think it's great because there's no limit. You're imagining a lot of the stuff in there, so you're contributing to whatever you're watching. So, and also like I think addressing serious topics in a cartoon, and when you watch these kids show, you go like, oh my god, they were talking about these stuff then. And it's a very serious topic, but as a cartoon, you get away with it. And so like every cartoon, I kind of started seeing that, like there's a lot of serious topics that is addressed in there. And these are aimed for kids. So you don't take it seriously, but you're learning about it. So I think that's cool. But as a filmmaker, though, doing animation, that's another story. Like this is per second budget. So like you need to have a huge budget or Netflix behind you or something. Then you can go ahead.
That's for sure.
But yeah, that one's it's really expensive to do 1 second and because there's like 24 frames or 60 frames. So
it's so much work. Animation, so much work. All right, so that's cool that you grew up in Mauritius and then you ended up in the UK, or?
Right. Yeah. So after I finished high school, then I went to Scotland for university, where I studied law. So yeah, but at the same time I was still doing guitar, and I think I chose Glasgow because I was working with someone who was from Glasgow, another guitar player, and we were going to do a rock band, and we thought that's how it goes. So I got to Glasgow. That's not exactly what happened. Like I thought I was going to get off the plane and that was it. But no, we started auditioning people, and then I didn't even know how to write a song back then. So I just knew how to play guitar. That was
right, because you just played by yourself most of the time.
Yeah, I played in bands, but when you're playing in bands, you're doing covers only. So I didn't bother about arrangements and all the other parts. I was just a guitar player. I was just like, I can do this part, and that's it. So in my mind, that's all you needed to know to go make music. Yeah. So, but then in Glasgow, so I was studying law as I was doing music, and after I graduated, I realized I definitely didn't want to do anything in law. But I thought it was a good background to have because everything I do involves contracts. So,
everything. And by the way, like, it's an obvious comment, but like the average rock and roller does not have a law degree.
No, well, I mean, but you'd be surprised by the
it explains to me why you end up, adding on a film school degree, like, to your life. It says something, I think, about your mind and curiosity in the world that you would stick to and graduate law school. Like, that's a big deal.
I was surprised too, because like I was very focused in music too at the same time. So like I didn't go to my graduation because I didn't think I graduated. Then I got a letter that I did graduate, and I was in Finland at a music festival when the graduation was on. So so I was. That's
a really great story. Like you're here at a music festival in Finland, and you find out, oh, I got a law degree.
Yeah, I had to go return my books because I kept the books because I thought I would have receipts and everything. So then that was a worry. I had to think about. I was like, oh yeah, shit. Now I got to go back to Glasgow, and but that was great. Yeah. So, but I always studied as I'm doing music. So like, there's never been, even now I've just like finished a few songwriting courses, and I was just like, learned so much new stuff. So as I go, every time I just move into one of those things, now I start enjoying. Once it's not forced on me, after high school, I started enjoying learning. So yeah.
Excellent. All right. So, and by the way, a pretty wonderfully international upbringing of sorts.
Yeah,
Growing up in Mauritius and then getting educated in Scotland. And I assume the music scene kicked ass all around that tiny island that thinks it's so important called the UK.
Yeah, it was really interesting. So I was in Glasgow. So Glasgow's very interesting. And again, like there's music, there's so many aspects to it. So at least when I was there, we were doing. I was really into metal, so we were doing like really heavy stuff. And that scene was what still is like quite small, and no one really thinks of like commercial and all that kind of thing. And when you're into that metal scene, and people hate pop back then. Like now things have changed greatly. Like in the past 5 years, I think everyone listens to everything. But 5 years ago, I think even 10 years ago, you listen to metal, you only listen to metal. You're not listening to pop. And you're embarrassed if you love a pop song.
For sure. So, and is it an age thing too? Like when we're younger, we're like metal's an identity or punk's an identity. Like I grew up listening mostly to punk, and I despised pop when I was younger.
Yeah.
And
there you go.
Now I got a 14-year-old kid, and like she plays Harry Styles, and I'm like, damn, that's actually some good composing. That's good music. And like, believe me, if I was a 14-year-old boy, I would despise it.
Yeah.
But now I appreciate everything.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. Like I know I evolved out of that really fast because like I love, like it started slowly balancing between the amount of pop songs and rock songs that I love with metal songs. So that like the balance was scaling on the other side. So I got out of that scene and I also saw that how limiting it was to just be like thinking of, I'm just going to do metal. I'm just going to write these riffs. I'm just going to wear black all the time, which I did for a very long time. I think like every one of my friends, I think till the age of 22, like I probably only wore black. And then, so that shift happened. And then I saw that, I thought New York was going to be the best move. So after Scotland, that was my next move. After graduation, that was, the next thing. I just literally packed everything and just said, okay, I'm going to go to New York and figure things out there.
Bold move, but very cool. Yeah, talk about an amazing city.
Yeah. Like it was very interesting because, like I said, I knew nothing. So when I just landed in New York, you land in Jamaica, Queens. So knowing nothing and have never been to New York, I landed in Jamaica. I thought like Hollywood really pimped New York up because I was like, man, where are the tall buildings? In Queens, especially when you're coming out of the airport, you're going through some sketchy neighborhood. And so then once I stayed in Jamaica, Queens for about a week in a motel, Super 8, and then trying to figure out New York, how to get an apartment and all this other stuff. Yeah, then eventually I think about like a month in, then I started kind of exploring Brooklyn, Manhattan, and figuring everything out from there.
Oh, very cool. And still just focused on music?
Yeah, so at that time I was doing music. I was getting more into songwriting and like trying to get sync licensing. So writing for TV and all that kind of thing. So trying to think of the money side of music, which is not through necessarily a band, but how to create stream of revenues throughout still being in music while doing that. So I did stuff in studios as well, where I was interning in studios and just learning everything that I could about the music industry, music, what works. And at that point, I still didn't know how to write a song. So like just knowing how to play guitar, I kind of quickly realized that's not going to be enough. So that's when I started like trying to figure out everything, like, from top to bottom. And still am like, nowadays, like everything, I'm always, even here, I kind of look at the film industry. So the indie film circuit, I was looking at that as I was making music videos. And then here I'm looking at the music industry of singer-songwriters, bands. I do both. And now it's kind of like you have to choose which one you want to go with and your label. So yeah, there's a lot of aspects to that. And that, when growing up, I did not see all that other part coming. Because had I seen that, I would probably have chosen something else.
It's a tough road, but I gotta say, I'm very impressed by your mind in a way. Because I mean, whatever. I've known musicians growing up and this and that. And you know, most guitarists I knew like figured, oh, if I can get a job at Guitar Center, you know, I can pay the rent. You know what I mean? Like you were looking for other ways to balance out your life and have a career.
Yeah, I didn't think about it as a career. It's a very, because now I do. Because now everything, like my routine, I have a routine, which I didn't have. Everything was like, you know, like I was just driven like, oh yeah, I want to do like a really badass rock band, and that's it. And that was it. And then you know, every day, like every hour was just like what the next thing is. There was no plan, or it was just like, that was just the objective. And then I just ran headfirst. Like,
awesome.
So,
excellent.
Yeah.
And is that where like you ran into, you know, producing music or making music videos for your music and dealing with directors and getting interested in directing, or did that happen out in, at some point? I know your story will shift to LA.
Yeah. So, well, so towards the end of New York, where I started getting my shit together and actually start writing songs and everything. And then I got a record deal for 3 records. So that's when the whole thing starts. And then I have to go learn how to write songs. So my first record was actually a jazz record. There's no guitar on there. So it's like my vocals and a jazz trio that I still play with and work with. So that's my first record. And there was no music video for that either. There was no budget for it. And then the second record, which is Then Psychoside's debut album, which is a 10 song. And then we went with like graphics and like characters for every song. When after that, we got connected to some directors to make, I think, 2 music videos or 3 music videos or something like that. And then the first one was first director I worked with. I start like, you know, I have no idea how music videos are made, right? Like I just, you know, go into meeting, I spill everything that I want in there. And like, I'm like, oh, I have a crazy idea about like, you know, circus. I want this to happen. And then eventually I could see like, we're not going to be able to do 3/4 of that stuff. And I was just and I was like, what? There's like $30,000. You can't do that. And even then, I remember I still like, you know, I was like searching online for locations and stuff. But then when they would go ask, the prices would go up. Because like, if I asked as an individual, every price of locations, we're like, yeah, well, you can do that. But once a company or label contracted person goes and asks and they're filming, the rates go up, skyrocket. So then I could see that the budget gets smaller. And then what we ended up doing, it just didn't look, it looked off. And the one that really turned me off was the editor, where I remember he was giving me crap for not lip syncing correctly to the song. And I was like, man, but like the words are on time and it's that you should be able to do something. And he said, that's impossible. That very day I went how to use Adobe Premiere Pro. And then I edited that section and brought it to him. I was like, it is possible. There you go. And
right. So his impossible in that situation meant it'll take me too long.
Oh, he can't do it. Yeah. Oh, he's like, my thing was just like, I was sure of something and I went and figured it out. And that's kind of like something clicked to me that not everybody you work with actually know everything about what they're doing. A lot of people are just, you know, going on the fly and whatever. But yeah, so from there on, that clicked something. And every recording session we have in any, like from music to videos, I'm always in sessions understanding. And then when someone tells me that something's not possible, I go and figure out, is it really not possible? Or are you the one not able to do that? And as I progressed, so then after New York, I record the first album in San Diego, actually. And after that, so then my working visa expires. So I'm applying for a green card and I had to be out of the country while that process takes place. So that's where I have an option of either going to Mexico and partying for a while, or go to Montreal and somehow start building a band around what I just created. And I chose Montreal, and I figured while I was there, I wanted to do something. So then film school was like the only thing left on my list, because at the same time I was studying audio engineering, which was just to learn the music side. So then when I got to Montreal, that was the start of learning about film and not just music videos, but that was my going in, is to learn every aspect of how to make a music video so I can communicate what I want with a director. But I learned way more than just that when I was in film school.
Right. So, and you're going to film school in Montreal, it's funny. It's one of the few cities I haven't been to, but I've heard amazing things about it. But you had already taught yourself Premiere. So like you had a pretty nice foundation to go in and really, and besides just going into film school, I mean, you had goals.
Yeah. And I had a background, and it was pretty cool because like I'd already worked with directors and we already shot videos, and I was already involved in the music industry. So like I knew a lot of the aspect, but like not the making. But what was really cool was one of the directors that worked with us, we were actually studying his work, which was really cool. Because like, when there was questions in class, I was texting and going like, hey, how did you actually shoot this? And he would tell me, and I was just like, I was saying to the teacher, yeah, I think you're wrong here. Like, that's how he did this. Like, and he was a very cool teacher too. So he was just like, oh, cool. Cause the point is learning. And so that was cool. That was really cool that I got to do that. And yeah, that was like in film school, we had to watch a lot of indie films, and there's a lot of festivals that go on there. So yeah, and there was you're surrounded by people that just love film. So it was cool to kind of be around these guys. There's actors, people who want to do film, who were trying to get into festivals. And so that was a nice environment to be in for like, I think it was a year long to just explore that. And learning how to be a crew, which was also like, so that like, that's why I hope I'm not an asshole to anyone as a crew. Cause like, I understand, I've done whatever it is tasks they're doing, and I know what is difficult and what isn't. Same deal. Now I fully understand, and I never give someone shit if they're doing good work. So that was like a really cool part to learn. And then it's after Montreal, then I make my way here via Boston, because I had to close. Yeah, it was a tough move between Montreal to all the way to here. I was just like, I needed to finish some work in Montreal. So the closest place was Boston. And yeah.
You're hitting all the great North American cities. I guess there's more. There's Chicago and San Francisco.
Yeah, but, I did think about Chicago. But that was a bit far from because I was commuting back and forth between Montreal, because like my bandmates were still in Montreal at that point. So like on weekends I was in Montreal, and then on during the week I was in Boston, and that just got too hard. and when the pandemic hit, then I moved here. Like, so right in the middle of the pandemic, I was in August of 2020.
Really? August 2020 is when you came to LA. Wow.
Yeah. August 2020, I was in an Airbnb and finding an apartment here.
And is your band? Are the members of your band kind of spread around in various hometowns,
No, so now I'm working with just sessions, like the whole band.
Right. So Psychoside's like the name of the band, but it's whomever you have in there at the moment.
Now that's where it's going. Yeah, because that was something that kind of happened, I think, in 2 years ago or something. But yeah, that whole process now it seems like the most viable way to go.
Yeah, it's funny. When I introduced you, I was introduced, like, I guess it's fair enough for this podcast, but like I introduced you as, I said, a composer and musician, but I didn't mention Psychoside because I'm like, I feel like I'm talking to Goldwyn, the director.
Yeah, that's funny because like every music video we've done won awards, like that I've worked on over these series, and it was really like something I didn't see coming, and then I got really excited, and now like we're getting into I'm finishing up a new record, so like the which is why I was binging Netflix, and I was telling you I subscribed in January. So I always do these incubation, even with music, I do the same thing. I go off, I don't listen to anything for months, and then before writing, I'll listen to specific stuff. Films is the same. Like now that's how it is. Like that I'll just watch a bunch of things for reasons of how to hook someone from the first episode. And what makes a series, why it goes for a season 2, is it now like they just got paid to finish this off. So there's like, I watch it that way, and I try to just make the next video. And I think of music videos because until I meet someone who I can work with as a director and I can let that go, I'm going to direct my own stuff just because like I've found it to be really fun over the past 2 years. Like writing and directing it, and yeah,
for sure. And I'm just going to ask this because of our conversation about binging Netflix and stuff. Like, do you like the idea of like a series of music videos, sort of telling a larger narrative?
Yeah, that's been something. Exactly what I've been thinking over the past months. Because I did that twice in 2020 and 2021. I released 2 EPs, which were series. And that was cool. But in terms of when you're a musician doing a music video, there are certain things that work and certain things that don't. And narratives usually don't work in terms of when you're as a promotion tool. But doing just performance videos, to me, is really boring, and I'd rather not do any. So I tried, like over the past months, I've been trying to think of something, and I think I'm close to coming up with something that is kind of a series. But I have a few ideas of how to make it a bit more than just a series, something that's interactive, a series, and there's still performances in between. So that's what I've been trying to put together for the past month or so, and like pre-production. So like, I think, in March we start casting.
I have to admit, I was nodding vigorously when you talked about performance videos, because especially in the early years of the festival, I think it's year 7 or 8 of the film festivals. Like the first year or two, like when the funny thing is I added music video as a category because I have a good friend. The closest friend I had growing up with has a little indie recording studio in LA, and we'd be talking about music, and he'd be like, "Why didn't you have a music video category? All these bands are like, I got all these rappers in my studio, and they're all shooting their own videos," and I'm like, "Huh." And I grew up in the '80s, so I loved the music because like when music video first hit in the mid early '80s, like they were almost movies with full stories and shot on film, and sometimes it felt like a James Bond movie, for Pete's sake. And like so I added the category, and then it always made me laugh when someone would submit a music video to a film festival, and it was like a camera on a tripod pointed at 4 people on stage playing the song, and the camera didn't even move. And I'm like, you consider this a music video for a festival? Like, I don't know, man. At least have some cuts.
Yeah, there's a lot of interesting stuff. Like if I were to, like, at least in the rock metal genre, right? I think a lot of rap and all that stuff do that too. It's just performance and then a girl. That's it. Like
girl dancing,
the girl doesn't
stage.
Yeah, doesn't
dancing
necessarily
stage.
The story is always we don't know what's going on. Different outfits, but it's always in a factory, in a warehouse, or
Well, that's already better than some of the stuff submitted to the festival. Although that was years ago. So
yeah. But like you said though. I think even in the 90s when there were performance videos, like they were very well thought of. And they had great directors too. And the budget was hundreds and thousands of dollars that was coming on. I think November, not even November Rain, Don't Cry by Guns N' Roses was $350,000 to shoot. And like nowadays, if you look at that video, it's a great video, but you can easily you didn't need that much money to do that. But
and I think we can. I mean, I can't name off the top of my head. I can name 3 or 4 big directors, big Hollywood directors who started making music videos.
Yeah, for sure, and they were really cool. Like I growing up, Prodigy, Smack My Bitch Up, but that was one of my favorite music videos ever. the story, how it was done, the shot, everything is great. And there's always like these kind of Aphex Twin, I think, does great music videos. Like there's always like those, Tool did great music videos. So there's always like, I've always been fascinated with that. And Seattle Scene, Soundgarden did great music videos. Foo Fighters are still doing great music videos. So Dave Grohl, so he's the one I was mentioning. So he's transitioning. He's got a movie coming out. Oh, it's already out, I think. Studio 66.
Yeah, it just released, right? It's a horror movie. Well, Rob Zombie jumped right into filmmaking.
He's great. Like I think I'm got connected with his guy that does costumes, because like I wanted to explore horror movies. Well, I tried that. I tried to get into it last year, but it was much harder than I thought. And now, like I think about it, but it's just like time consuming. The money, the mask, everything has to look right. So yeah, but I think a lot of musicians that I like growing up have slashes into horror. He has his own horror company. Yeah. So like a lot of musicians have gone.
There's definitely an overlap with horror, but even like I'm obviously David Fincher is someone who started off making music videos and has made some of the best films we've seen, and some
for sure. Yeah.
And even like there's a guy, Francis Lawrence, who did like Britney Spears music videos, and then he went on to make movies like Constantine and Hunger Games as a director.
Oh yeah.
And I feel like the music video directors they learn style. I think there's a little more style to it. And so like, it's funny because I feel like, Fincher and Francis and some other people like
Spike Lee as well. Yeah.
Spike Lee. Yeah. Like you learn the importance of style. I think when you make a music video, when you're focused on promoting an artist, like, you've got an artist in a song. I don't know. I think it's very cool. I even think like a couple British guys. I'm blanking on the first name. I think it might be Jonathan Glazer. He started with music video and then did like a movie, Sexy Beast, that I love. So
yeah, Christopher Nolan, I think as well, got from there, and Michael Bay, if I'm not mistaken, as well did start with music videos. I think everyone, at least. When I went to film school, I kind of noticed because you kind of got to step your way into it. If you go straight into features, I think you miss a lot out, because in music video you're limited by a few things. There's time, budget is always tiny, so you really got to make use of everyone you got there. So like, do you really need this guy? Like you got to know the whole aspect, because most likely the director is going to be the one editing or that kind of thing. So I think that alone kind of like puts you up when you go into feature, because then feature you're given that much money and you go like, I could have easily done that. Okay, and off you go. Like you really appreciate everything you have. I think when you start off like doing a music video with all the limitations that are there. So I think that's a good advantage to have, and then people go off to do features. I respect that a lot, because doing music video, I see how hard those are. I can only imagine like a feature, and I have no interest because of the hard work that has to go into it.
Understood. Well, and because you're doing music too, like.
Yeah,
obviously you would almost have to drop music for a couple years to pursue a feature, because I mean I don't think you can do both at the same time. I mean, it's a lot of work to get a feature film off the ground and then made.
And just working on a film set is taxing. It's really like, I can't do it. Like after I direct something, like I need to go off and for a week, and music doesn't take that much toll on me as being in a filming environment. Whether you're a crew, you're an actor, you're a director, whatever it is, you're there the whole day.
16-hour day on a film set saps a lot of energy.
Not necessarily much happens during those 16 hours.
Yeah, that's
yeah, there's like a shitload of thing happening before setting up the scene. That alone is like one thing, which And if you have days in a row, you don't really get rest. At least I didn't when I was doing them. And yeah, so like even now, because like going to go like produce a new set of videos and like it's kind of like having to get ready for it. Like really getting
and do
ready.
you? I guess I didn't mean for us to skip over the Sledgehammer video, but
right.
But like, do you start thinking about visuals as the song's coming together, or do you wait till the song's done and then you start thinking about? Because obviously at that point did you know you were going to direct your own?
Well, in the pandemic, so the communication between me and the editor cut off in the pandemic. So we shot everything in Glasgow, Scotland. So we're in Paris and in Finland, and we shot everything there. So when that happened, then when I edited the first one, then during the pandemic, me and a few friends, we did a video called Blow, and in the rehearsal space. And that was pretty fun. So yeah. So then there on, I was just like, yeah, I'm going to direct everything. And now it's the same. Like I am writing and directing all these, and the ideas are coming as I'm writing and as I'm watching new things. So like one of the things that I'm trying to incorporate this time is like, so after music video 1, for instance, there's going to be like a little continuation. Not necessarily music, almost a cross between reality TV and a fake documentary involved with the music videos and the characters. So like a behind the scene, but not really a behind the scene, just like Jersey Shore kind of shit in between promoting the next one that comes out. So that it has a good interval. And so it's meant to start, the next stuff that I'm putting out is going to start in April and end in December kind of thing. And that's kind of the idea that I'm coming with. And yeah, every time we're writing or in the studio recording, I get some visuals and I try to take note. And then later on, when I have to sit down and script it out, then I see what comes out of it.
Excellent. And just so I understand it, the timing of I Don't Need a Sledgehammer to Start a Fire, that was all shot pre-pandemic and then you edited during the pandemic?
No, I was shot during the pandemic.
It was all shot during.
Yeah. So like, it was, because I'm trying to think. Like, there was a lot in that video. Like, we shot in Vegas, we shot in LA.
Yeah, it definitely feels like a California desert kind of vibe.
Yeah. Well, we have like a really cool connection in Vegas that let us shoot. I don't actually know how many music videos we've shot there, but they have just different sets. So the mine that we shot in was there. It's one of the mines, and then everything that looks like there's buses and everything that was shot same place. And then there's another music video that has a chapel, same spot. So like, yeah, we know these guys, and then they have this huge place. Like I can't remember the name of the place, but yeah, usually that's one of the places that we shoot. And then here, I knew a few sets that we were able to go to, and just go and shoot. And they had everything. Like the pandemic was weird because we were allowed to shoot at some point, and some point we weren't. And then some actors were keen on coming, some weren't. And so like my script had to change every now and then, and I had to adjust with what I had at some point. So yeah, it was really interesting. And Sledgehammer was shot half on an iPhone and half on a Sony FS7.
And can you tell those apart? Or because it's funny, I've talked to other people who've even shot like part on a Red, and then like they had no choice but to do pickups with an iPhone. And sometimes you're like, you know what? Those cut together just fine. It's actually kind of amazing.
It's so I got some lens that I bought with my iPhone. So I've got a connect thing that I connect to my iPhone, and can't remember what the lens name called, but you attach those on there. And they're pretty good. Like they're really good. And I think a lot of directors are using these now. The guy who did I forgot his name. But there's some advantage and some disadvantage with using an iPhone. But I definitely think the quality is up there. Like I color graded and I edited, so like of course I saw how hard it was. But I can tell you, like daytime and movement and the amount of things you can do as fast as you can do, the iPhone is, like, for me, is the thing. But but of course you got to balance that out. Like you're gonna, depending on what kind of shots those are. If they're action shots, then that's your best friend. Lightweight, you can follow. It's got a stabilizer, and if you use a regular camera, that guy's going to need a rig. He's going to have to go to the gym and be very flexible. And he's probably not going to get the shot. So I've tried both, and I can tell you, like, right now, this is one of the, like, it'd be silly to go on a set without one.
I believe it was Steven Soderbergh. I read an interview with him recently, or the last year, because I've lost all track of time with this pandemic stuff. But I think Steven Soderbergh said, yeah, I shot a film all on iPhone, but I did it not as a stunt, but because I want to get into small spaces, and I needed to be close to an actor in a small space, and just using the iPhone gave me more flexibility. It was an artistic choice, not a budgetary choice.
Damien Chazelle, he shot his last thing on an iPhone, the whole thing, and the lens. So yeah, so they're these kind of lenses. So like they just come like that, and that's the exact lens that they were using for these kind of shots. So it's just a little something that's like that you just attach onto,
right, and it just clips onto the phone, and all of a sudden it gives you a more cinematic look.
Yeah, and you got all of them, man. You got fisheye, you got a 58, you got them all. So like, and also you got to realize that the audience, a lot of them are going to be watching this on a phone. So that's also another thing that, like, filmmakers are thinking about when they're making films out. So if these guys, it's not budget, that's lacking. So and if you've seen any of these guys' movies, you understand that, okay, they're seeing something. And I saw a shot of, I don't even know what movie he was doing, the Damien Chazelle guy, and but he split the screen in 3. Because knowing that someone's going to watch that on their phone, and I thought that was really interesting. So that means he's
right. So he knew they'd be holding the phone vertically, so he did a cinematic ratio, but 3 times. Yeah, I know it's
for a movie. So that's a movie, a feature film by a great director that's been sponsored budgeted by a studio. So that's like a studio film that came in. I don't even know if they even going to have a widescreen. I don't know how that's going to translate there. Yeah, so but
I have to say it's smart. Though. I mean, I've mentioned her before, but the 14-year-old will sometimes watch on her phone sitting on the couch in front of a 65-inch TV. And I'm like, why don't you just turn on the TV and throw the phone to the TV so you could watch? She's like, I like it on my phone. Like, I know it's funny because when I tell people to watch the Discovery Indie Film TV series, I always throw in, like, make sure you sign into Amazon Prime on, like, a nice big TV or with a big computer monitor. Don't be watching movies on your phone. But I'm kind of like shouting into the ether, right? Because it's about the phones a lot of the time.
Yeah, like like every generation's used to something, right? And the coming generation is they're just used to it. So like, and to be honest, like, let's say music side, when the earpods came out, it made me think of the making of music, because things sound differently on earpods than they do on speakers and everything, and not in a bad way, but in a way that I heard more details, and I was just like, oh, that's a game changer. Because if this is the way we're going to start listening to things, and these are, because I was part of the creating of this song, so I know where there's mistakes, I know where you're going to hear a little scratch, which usually you wouldn't hear on regular speakers, or the separation would be slightly glued together, but it's less when it's on earpods. So like you take that into account. And I think filmmakers are doing the same now, knowing that people are going to watch that on their iPad, on their iPhone, and as well as whatever. Now, I don't know if they're going to make different versions, which wouldn't be unheard of, like knowing that you're going to be doing that. And everything is moving so fast that, it's just interesting. It's just like, if you're going to be a filmmaker and if you're with a studio, it's how creative you can be, how efficient you can be, and not just like, yeah, I'm a filmmaker. It's just like you're gonna have to know a lot, because the competition, the other director they can hire, is gonna know that. So
yeah, and actually that's so interesting because they have the AirPods. I always loved, like, stereo separation is so good when you have in with headphones or AirPods. And it's so interesting. Although it's funny because when I started the podcast, I did some research about stereo, because like when I was recording in person with two microphones, I was like, ooh, it'd be cool to have stereo. And everything I read said too many people just keeping like one, like back when it was on a wire and you had your, your, I can't avoid the word AirPod, but earbuds.
Yeah.
A lot of people just have one in. So like always make sure your podcast is mono so that with one earbud in, people hear both voices. And I was like, oh, that makes sense. I hadn't thought of it.
Yeah. And there's something interesting that's happening. And I'm not sure if it's only picked up on the AirPods Pro, but like, let's say even Joe Rogan's podcast. So there's I can hear the different placements of the microphones and the mix. So like you clearly hear a movement of sound. So that shouldn't be picked up. Like when you put it on speakers, it's different. But I think it's adjusting to almost how you hear things. So there's different ways, like even in the new recording softwares, where the camera catches where your face is, and it will adjust as you move your head. So things are evolving. So like it's
pretty amazing shit. Yeah, actually, now you got me realizing that you are, in the next couple of years, you're probably going to shoot a VR music video at some point. For it to go on people,
yeah.
Because like an Apple, I think everyone knows Apple is going to make the AirPods like part of a, if not a virtual reality, like what do they call it? Enhanced reality or something, like
augmented
reality. Augmented. I knew it started with an A. Yeah, but that's boy, you're going to be, things are just going to keep changing. People be watching music video on their phone with AirPods, and like as you turn your head, you'll be like more in that environment, and the audio will change. It's going to be something else.
Björk, the artist, has already done that. So she's. I went to one of her galleries in Montreal where it was just a music but VR, and it was ridiculously trippy. So you just wear the set, and she's singing there, and you're in a volcano place, and you're just walking around, like listening to the music and being immersed in this space. Then you go to the next room to listen to the next track. It was just like, it was out of this world. But I'm sure this is going to evolve even more to where you don't have to go to museum to go watch it. But
that'd be amazing.
Yeah, that's that experience. But that's Björk. Like, she's known for doing crazy shit. But that was definitely an eye opener. And I've spoken to people who talk about the way they're devising new hearing equipment, even in museums, so that you don't even need to wear anything. But when you get in front of the painting, in that space, you're the only person that's hearing this. Someone right next to you outside of that space is not going to hear it. So that's already there. So who knows where 5 years is going to, like, we're going to
pretty exciting. It's pretty, for those of us who enjoy art and public art, it's pretty exciting.
Yeah, that's like the guy who works on our music and mixes it, works on that technology. That I think he worked with the LAPD too. I don't know what they're doing, but they were just working on how to make sound bounce off certain areas, and incorporating that into, well, he was also looking at museums. So yeah, it's going pretty far.
That's rad. Now. All right. Well, I won't talk about all the cool applications for film festivals, but I could see it. I could see a film festival where it's a couple hundred people with VR sets on, and experiencing a wild, like the Bjork thing. That'd be amazing.
There's going to be one guy that's going to come out with a new way of watching movies, a new way of watching gigs, and then a few years after that guy comes up with it, we're going to be like, what were we doing before?
Yeah.
That's I think that's coming closer and closer. I don't really see myself heading into a theater anytime soon. Just because like I have the equipment to make this, to enjoy a movie better at home than to go to a theater, unless it's exclusive in a theater. So that has changed, and you know, I can invite friends over. I can you know, have wine and, you know, smoke weed while watching this. And the theater is not going to let me do that. And the food over there is not that good. They haven't changed much since I don't know when. So like, you know, that environment has already evolved. I don't know when it's going to happen to music, and if it will translate from music, because the energy of live music is something else. But I wouldn't be surprised if something comes up and then, you know, we experience music in a different way. And I'd be surprised if it didn't.
For sure. And I agree with you on all that. And I just feel the need to share that also for fun, we added a movie night. We got a June festival and a November festival. June is Film Invasion and November is Sherman Oaks. And because there's been so many cool things submitted that so we started a thing called THC Cinema, and we had the first one in January. Now the second one's going to be on April 20th on 4/20, a night at the 90-seat theater here in Sherman Oaks. We're going to, you know, first one, people, you know, smoked on the sidewalk or whatever. The theater owner is like, hell yeah, I love this idea. So yeah, everyone enjoying some weed and cinema together.
It's a different experience.
It is.
The experience. I think everyone experiences things differently, but it's definitely a different. You can watch the same movie twice, and it will be different if you're on weed and off weed. And I believe that's for any art. Some kind of influence will always change how you see it and your perception of this kind of thing, if they're good.
Yeah,
very
absolutely.
bad
Yeah,
stuff. Don't get away with it.
And it's quality. Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's always been that way. And of course, we are talking. Anyone listening, I'm just going to say we're in California. It's legal for everyone over 21 to enjoy cannabis on private property. You shouldn't do it in public. The theater we use is private property, and the owner says, "I don't mind you guys using it here." So, but anyhow, you mentioned weed, so I had to let you know about THC Cinema.
I'm a great proponent of that.
Yeah, I mean, my God, music. Many of my college years were just enjoying music with a bong, because my God, music is so amazing and so beautiful. And then you experience it with what we're now calling cannabis or THC, and it's just remarkable what you hear.
Yeah, I've only started getting into weed, I think, a few years ago. So maybe about 4 or 5 years ago. So before that, I was just boozing, and now, since I got into it, now I don't drink anymore. So it's just weird. Like there's a lot of songs that I listen to and I go like, it's like I'm hearing it for the first time. Because and again, like I said, it's like even alcohol will make you hear and think differently. And I think even my making of music has changed from the very first record to now, based on these stuff too, and these experiences and how I see things and I perceive things. And and I think that's, you know, if you enjoy these kind of things, because like some people
it's not for everybody. I know some people who just don't enjoy it, and that's perfectly cool. But I do think it affects your I forget the terminology, but like instead of like when we're, for lack of a better word, normal, like you just sort of focus on what's most prominent. And for some reason on weed, like little accents are just as noticeable as like the main thing. Like, you know, the classic is Dark Side of the Moon, right? Like all of a sudden, like little voices in the background, you hear just as clearly as if they were in front of your face. Whereas when you were sober, you were really just listening to the guitar and the bass and the drums and
Probably,
that voice, that tiny voice, and like the far end of the right side of your stereo speakers or whatever was just like, it was like a little, but all of a sudden you're like, wow, I'm noticing all these different textures and layers.
Yeah, for sure. And I definitely agree. Like, I think that's, you hit it right there. Like, that's what I felt when I was just drinking and listening to music or even going to live gigs. Is like, I was mainly a guitar player, so I only focused on guitars. If a song didn't have good guitars, I wouldn't listen to it. So that was the only thing I was focused on. But like, now Pink Floyd, I actually only listened to that on acid. So like, I have the vinyl records, and I still have one I have, The Wall, which is I haven't listened to that vinyl, still sealed. Like, I haven't had an acid trip for that. So like, I plan those out and I draw, and it's a whole different experience. Like, I buy records just for separate occasions, like for mushroom trips, for acid trips. And it's just like, now I have a very different way of appreciating and experiencing music. And I choose like how those work out.
Absolutely. It's wonderful. And human beings have been enjoying mushrooms and all sorts of psychoactive chemicals all throughout history. It's probably responsible for most religious visions.
Yeah, and I think it's an incredible thing if you can experience these, because like, I know some people don't have the right reactions and it doesn't work out, or they have bad, and then that's probably not for them. But if some people are used to and try to take the partying part out of it and experience things, like set out to go, I'm going to go to like a museum, to an orchestra, which is something, and you have that kind of idea, it changes the whole thing.
It does. I have a friend who just recently, and he's in his 60s, actually. He's a man in his 60s, and he's dealt with difficult anxiety issues for much of his life. He had a bit of a traumatic childhood, and he recently tried LSD as a form of therapy, and he says it's completely changed. He says, it's completely changed my relationship with anxiety. And I actually feel so much better. Like whatever. Now we're having a completely different discussion, but
right.
but I just like, and he's like, I just wish there was a way to explain to, like, because we have other friends with anxiety issues. And he's like, I wish I could explain to them that they should be open to this. But, a lot of anxious minds are like, oh no, don't come at me with that crazy stuff. I'll lose my mind. And it's like, there could be a really positive reaction if you come to it from a positive place.
Yeah. And I think it's when someone's ready too. So like, I think if like, that's the thing, like, you
don't want to just slip it in their punch.
Yeah. It's just, it's a very interesting thing itself, I think, in general, the psychedelics and all that kind of stuff, and I think most people should at least have tried and experienced in a very controlled environment, and then decide whether they like it or not. Just like alcohol,
you're making me think, man, if only I was independently wealthy, not only would there be like the film festivals and THC cinema for fun every once in a while, but like, man, a psychedelic film festival, a film festival designed around this experience, that would be a hell of a time. That'd be really interesting.
Yeah, I think, and it would be very, because like I said, like these kind of things have different effects on different people. So that's always something to watch out for too.
Yeah. But I mean, you mentioned museums. I'm like, oh my God, like museums. But anyhow.
But that's the thing, right? Like, let's say Montreal, or let's say the first time I heard weed was legalized and I went to Vegas, I thought everything was going to be nuts. I literally thought, weed is legal and I'm in Vegas. This is going to be crazy. But you know what? I was terribly surprised. Like, there weren't that many hippies or stoners, or not much had changed. So there's also like, it's a very interesting subject and a very interesting thing. But I'm happy that these are legal, slowly becoming more accessible, and I do believe that this is going to make better art.
I'm with you. All right. Well, that was a fun tangent.
Yeah.
But I guess we should probably wrap it up. Now you've given me more insight to your band name Psychoside. But anyway, like you're very you're open to psychology and the human mind. I don't know. I'm just reading into it.
Well, that is part of it.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Well, do you want to tell people where to find you and your work?
Yeah, so you can on Instagram it's psychoside.ofc. And yeah, everywhere YouTube it's Psychoside. You can Google Psychoside and hopefully we should pop up right there, and it shouldn't be hard. And psychoside.com. So just think of that. It's Psychoside with a C. And and we're gonna be there.
PSYCHOCIDE.
CID. That's the correct spelling. And you Google that, we should be there.
Excellent. All right. And I'm proud to say that the video for the Psychoside song, I Don't Need a Sledgehammer to Start a Fire, is going to be in the Discovery Indie Film TV series, season 5. And now I'll go on my little rant at the end of the festival, at the end of the podcast, to let everyone know how to look stuff up. Hey, I mentioned so many things, so I'll try to make this really quick. But what the F? I'll mention THC Cinema first. I normally don't even mention it, but it feels appropriate now.
Right.
THCcinema.com, at THC Cinema on social media. Look it up. We're going to have an absolutely amazing time on April 20th here in Los Angeles. If you're here and you enjoy that kind of thing, wonderful. But the TV series that Goldwyn's music video is in is Discover Indie Film, and it's on Amazon Prime Video. So just go to Prime Video on any platform, even a phone if it's got to be, but big TVs are better for cinema. So if you want to learn more about it and this podcast that is tied into it, that's discoverindiefilm.com. And on social media, it's at DIFWins. And I mentioned that I Don't Need a Sledgehammer to Start a Fire won Outstanding Music Video at Film Invasion Los Angeles last year in 2021. So if you want to learn about that festival, which we hold every June, and we're going to be in person in June 2022, which is wonderful.
Hey.
FilmInvasionLA.com is the website, and at FilmInvasionLA is the social media handle for it. And the last thing to mention is Film Invasion Los Angeles has a sister festival, the Sherman Oaks Film Festival, that we hold every November. So that's ShermanOaksFF.com, and it's at ShermanOaksFF on social media. I have now. I didn't beg for stars. Give 5 stars. What the hell? If you're listening to this and you can give a thumbs up, like, subscribe, whatever, be nice and like the podcast. And the TV series that is going to have Goldwyn's work in it in a couple months or next month. You can go to Amazon.com and look up the Prime tab, the Prime Video tab, and look up Discover Indie Film and give it 5 stars. Support indie filmmakers and give them a nice review. And you should watch the show too. It's the cream of the crop from the festival circuit. All right, that's the spiel at the end of the podcast. Thank you, Goldwyn. It was a pleasure talking to you.
Likewise. Thank you very much, Jeff, for having me on there.
Yeah. And thank you, everyone, for listening.